Hi everybody, this is Property with Leonard and welcome to another episode. Now on this channel we discuss property, finance and investments. Now please note that none of my videos constitutes as financial advice, but if you're looking for financial advice, please speak to an accredited and registered financial advisor. Now today I'm answering a rather complicated question, one for which I guess there's no definitive answer, and that is, should you rent or buy a property when you retire? Now I know a lot of you are faced with that dilemma. Now there is no clear-cut answer to this, but in this video I will try my best to help you make an informed decision. Now this conundrum is almost the same as right in the beginning as a first-time buyer deciding on when and where to buy your first house. And the factors that you would consider are based on your budget, of course, your needs, not just at that very moment, but also your possible and potential future needs. As a first-time buyer, things like how close to work, to a school and or daycare facility, if you have children, or even if you don't have children at the time of purchase, those are serious and very important considerations if you are planning to have children, for instance. And I guess the same apply for retirement. You might be thinking along the lines of convenience, the option of a lock up and go, which is very popular, obviously low maintenance and safety, of course. Also, things that you would consider as a retiree are the proximity to amenities such as shops and medical facilities. And if you are retiring and faced with this choice, that begs the question, should you buy or rent? Or even before you get there, should you sell your current home? I mean, that's another consideration to take into account. Now, if you're about to retire, you probably also thought about selling your family home. So you can spend less time on things like maintenance and more on things like your hobbies or keeping fit or traveling or simply relaxing. I mean, you are retiring after all. If you buy, the important question that you have to ask yourself as a retiree is, what type of home should it be? But let me first talk about renting. This is now, should you decide to rent rather than buy another property once your home is sold. Now the advantages, let me start there. The advantages of renting, especially if you choose as a retiree the option of an apartment or perhaps a sectional titled townhouse, are that you will have less responsibility, which is obvious, with regards to home maintenance, and most likely you will have more security or better security than in your own house, and you'll have more freedom to lock up and go. You know, that type of freedom, that lifestyle, lock up and go when you like, and none of the costs associated with home buying and home ownership, of course. And these costs are things such as transfer duty and bond registration costs, insurance and rates and taxes. And as mentioned in previous videos, and those of you who watch my channel often would know that these costs, they pile up and they can really take a big bite out of your budget. So renting for a while is probably also a good idea if you are still undecided. If you're still undecided on where you want to settle for retirement, which could be your own familiar area or closer to your children, or perhaps in a favorite holiday destination. And these are things that people always consider. But it's also important that I just point out to you that there are also disadvantages in renting. And the most significant being the uncertainty about how much rentals might rise in future. It's obvious, but you have to take that into consideration. And how you would continue to make these monthly payments. And that is a real concern, especially if you are on a fixed income that is being steadily eroded by inflation, another reality. And if you have children, you may also worry that renting is just eating up their inheritance. So you need to weigh the options meticulously and do your homework. Very importantly, do your homework. The best option might just be to buy, and this is my personal option, to buy a sectional title unit in a secure complex, especially if you can use the proceeds of your home sale to buy the unit cash without, for instance, without having to use any additional funds from your savings and or investments. And I just want to reiterate, this is my personal choice. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. So whatever suits me does not necessarily suit you. Now, taken that in such complexes, there is, of course, there is a monthly levy to be paid. But the advantage is it gives you much of the same freedom from maintenance chores as renting would. And you would have an appreciating asset. But there are, of course, as alluded to earlier, for you as a retiree, things to take into consideration when buying. This is now when you take the option of buying rather than renting. Meaning you are now retiring, so you've sold your, let's call it your family home. You need to think about possible healthcare needs you might need in the future. Not just now, but also in the future. In which case, you should be looking to buy an apartment or cottage in a retirement village, perhaps with its own frail care facilities, things like that, etc. And I would like to emphasize that it is essential to do your homework once again. And if you are moving to an unfamiliar area upon retiring, perhaps from Gauteng or the Northern Cape or Bloemfontein to the coasts, which is very common here in South Africa, it's pretty obvious, but I would suggest, even if your intention is to buy rather than rent, my advice would still be that you perhaps rent for 6 months or a year, just to familiarize yourself with your new surroundings, and make sure you are going to be comfortable spending your golden years in a home or area that you really want to be in. Because you might be thinking right now, in your frame of mind, you're leaning more towards an apartment. But once you've lived in the apartment physically for a few months, you might realize that this is not for you, and perhaps a sectional titled townhouse would work better for you, or vice versa. And just remember, every time you move, there are costs involved. It goes without saying, but I'm just mentioning it to you once again. Like transfer costs if you are buying, and moving costs once you move. So you need to measure it up and be aware of these costs. My advice, once again, do your homework and do so properly. And make sure that you buy something that you can live in and that will cater to your needs, not just for now, but as you grow older. And if you are faced with this choice, do this rather sooner than later, because these types of properties, they are not cheap, and prices are escalating continuously, because people are simply willing to fork out ridiculous amounts of money for that privilege. And that is what it really is. It's a privilege if you are faced with, let me call it, dilemma, because the vast majority of South Africans, and I'm not sure about people all over the world, but I mean, the vast majority of South Africans simply can't afford the luxury of retiring. And if you buy a property, you will of course also be paying a monthly levy, but the trade-off will not only be lower home and garden maintenance, but peace of mind about things like what will happen to you if you become ill or too frail to manage your own home. And I also know that many retirement complexes also have what they call a levy stabilization fund to help keep a lid on future levy increases. And when you make this choice to buy, you will again have an asset to leave to your heirs. Well, everybody, I sincerely hope that was really a mouthful, but I sincerely hope that what I've shared with you now, if you are retiring or planning on retiring pretty soon, that what I've shared with you today would really be of help to you to make this very important, life-changing decision. And if this video was of value to you, can I kindly ask you, if you haven't, to please subscribe to my channel, to like this video, to share it, and leave me a comment in the comment section below. Thank you so much, everybody. I always enjoy spending time with you all. I'm looking forward to the next episode where I will see you once again. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Stay blessed.